like to welcome to my podcast today. I have Jamie from the band Stay Asleep. Welcome, Jamie.
Oh. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely my pleasure, man. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm cold, but I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. It's a bit nippy here in this area of the world anyway. Took the dog out this morning and it was like -2 or something silly.
Crazy.
Ridiculous. But we're here today to talk about your band Stay Asleep. Before we get into the nitty gritty of it, can we get a bit of an origin story of Stay Asleep? Because you are, well, I knew you under your previous guys.
Yep.
And you've come back as Stay Asleep. So I just want to get a bit of a story behind that.
Yeah, sure. So previously we were in a band called Bright Light City. In fact, I was in a band with Justin, who's my brother, the guitarist, and we played with Zero Cypher back in the day. Yeah, I was in a band called Year Zero back in the day, and we played some gigs with you. Yep. Yeah. So it's a bit of a roundabout tour here, mate. But we're back in the zone now. Yes, we did. We had Bright Light City. We ran for about 10 years as Bright Light City.
Yeah.
But you go through various kind of band members and changes, and ultimately, you know, the sound you're forging with newer members doesn't represent anything that came previously.
Yeah.
And you kind of want a fresh start is always a way to look at it. I think we took Bright Light City to the point as far as we could do musically. And we just wanted to push the boundaries a bit more. And I think the best way to do that is just reinvent yourself and, emerge as something new rather than trying to ride off the back of a name. Then Stay Asleep, kind of we formed, well, it must have been about a year ago we started demoing and recording stuff before lockdown.
Yeah.
Just after Bright Light City split up, and we just sat on the tracks just because we did. You know how it gets when you get busy and you kind of you want to get them out there, but you kind of waiting for the right time. But unfortunately, the right time never comes. When you're in a lockdown in the middle of a pandemic, the right time never comes. No. So we just said recently, let's just get them out. So Stay Asleep as a kind of unit, as a band, I think personally was really present more recently with the Pay to Play single.
Yes.
We tested the water a little bit in July with Speak, Lie, Repeat, which is the first single. But there's things about that track that we love. There's things about it we'd like to do again. So that's kind of like just get it out, test the water, and then Pay to Play. We spent a lot of time on getting them to do the single up to standards we were happy with.
Yeah.
And reaction's been good. I'm really pleased with how people responded to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great single. I mean, I really kind of I resonate with its message. As you've already mentioned, I mean, I mention it quite often anyway, but with Zero Cypher, we were in that position of people contacting you saying, hey, we're from here. If you do this, that.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll get you this. Or with no guarantees, but it was always spend money.
Yeah, of course.
I'm not gonna sugarcoat. We did pay for certain things, like getting on tours and stuff like that. Back then, that was how it was done. That's how you sort of grease the wheels, and it was kind of guised as you paid for a portion of whatever equipment on that tour. So in the like one of the main tours we did, we paid for the tour bus for both bands. We shared this bus. Wasn't a greatly. It was good for profile, but it wasn't a greatly successful tour because the headlining band split up halfway through.
Oh, right.
So ever since then, I've always been very hesitant on spending money, but we always got offered like various things. Like for one, there was a big American band that were reforming with their original lineup, and it was a tour across Europe, and it was like 10,000 euros. But you had to get your own bus, your own accommodation. You didn't get paid for those shows. I mean, you'd get your merch and stuff if you did all right, and you'd be playing to closed doors.
Oh, right.
So you'd start your set while people were still outside. I was like, nah. Even it was, it would have been great to be on tour with the band like that was. I'm not going to mention names because they're still going now, but it was, and like hearing this single, and it just totally brought back everything from that era, because I'd kind of like I've been out of the sort of band game for a little while, and like coming back round and like getting those feelings again, because I took care of Zero Cypher's management side of things,
Mm-hmm.
booking and all that kind of stuff. So a lot like you guys, we were very much like internal.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of it ourselves. Like all our albums were produced by us. All the sort of like tours and everything we booked was, apart from one tour we did with a booking agent, which didn't work out. But everything I sort of did on the admin side of things. So like those emails and those messages and the message behind that song of pay to play and, you know, taking sort of like, as you put it, backhanders from the PRs and stuff.
Yeah,
I really
cheeky.
felt the frustration with that.
Yeah.
And with, I mean, obviously that's where it kind of came, like it's obviously where it's came from. So with like Bright Light City and your previous guys and stuff, you know, that part of the industry doesn't feel like it's changed, like since I was in it. And now, is it still, because I'm not in that side of it, I've not been band side of stuff for where are we now, probably about 8 or 9 years. I was a front man for a band called Victorian Whore Dogs for a couple of years, and like after Zero Cypher, and then I moved to America and then came back.
Right.
But yeah, no, I've been out that side. I was just like, because the industry has changed from the outside, I'm looking at it from a journalistic side as well, like from my side. I see some similarities, but I see a lot of it changing, like the way we kind of like have to distribute the music, the way we promote the music.
Yeah.
But that like sort of like, you know, I can get you in front of certain record execs and stuff like that. It doesn't feel like that hasn't changed. Is that still something that's...
Yeah, it still goes around. We still get the odd email, just you know, blanket emails that go out saying it's a certain promoters, certain promotion companies. I'm not going to mention them, but you know, they send out emails all the time, and you when you're younger, like in a younger band, you'd look at it on the face value and you think, right, okay, it's this venue. It's you know, it's quite a prestigious venue. All we got to do is sell a few tickets to mates, and then come and see us, and it'll be a great gig, and the possibility of someone from X record label will be there or whatever. But we all know the reality is that the only reason that those shows are put on is to make money out of and profit from those bands. There's no other reason for it. The band does not get paid. It's great you're playing in front of your friends, brilliant, but they're not going to always buy your records and follow you around the country. So it seems like a bit of an empty journey for a band, but we're lucky enough to be more experienced and see that. But then pay to play is not just really about, although that is that excerpt in the song where it is about you sell these tickets and you can play to the record, etc. But then the very first verse I reference streaming. I reference filling buckets up from the stream, and it's like, again, it's that realization that where as musicians do we actually have the kind of means to make a decent amount of money or a living from doing what we do and what we love? When do we actually get paid the right amount that justifies the effort we put in? And I don't know where that's going to come from. I know you can obviously sell merch, physical stuff. But then it shows, how often do you really shift a lot of merch if you're not a big band? It's very rare. We still got Bright Light City LPs that we pressed up. I think Justin's wife is like fed up with the sight of them, stacks of them, because how often do you actually really shift decent amounts of merchandise unless you're established?
No, that was true back then, and it is true now. And to make you feel a bit better, there's a box above my head about there we go. That has Zero Cypher's last album in it.
Brilliant.
There's little boxes everywhere full of these things. So yeah, even sort of like, oh fucking hell, how far are we now? 13, 14, coming up a while since splitting.
And it's still there.
It still hangs around you. And it follows you wherever you go, because no one's going to buy it. And like, well, they might. I do occasionally get people say, have you got any CDs? Normally I just say they're on eBay, because people do have them. But no, I just, it's just that side of it as well. Because I've not, like I said, I've been out the band game for a while, and the streaming side of things, the only side I see of it is through other musicians and how they kind of tackle that, how they attempt to make money from that. Because obviously you got things like you say, selling merch is fine to a certain degree, but there's still that sort of outlay you've got to make. And that creation process, and it kind of, it all racks up after a while. But obviously, you know, some bands are in fortunate positions where they can release something obscure like a cassette tape or something like that and sell it out quickly. But I don't know if anything is made on doing something like that, because like I said, I've been out of this game for a while, and the way I get most of my music is through streaming these days, although I do get sent from people in the industry for like review and play on the show. I get sent concentration singles, whatever. But I do buy records as well. I buy vinyl. I've got like a box in front of me now, I can see, and it's got like in that one, I think it's like Phil Campbell and the Bastard Sons most recent albums right at the front there. And there's like, I've got 7 inches from various independent bands and stuff as well in another box. So I like to buy that physical product, but I can see like, you've got to be able to have that know of what your fan base want as well.
Yeah, there's definitely an element of that. But unlike you, I do stream. Listen, there's no getting away from the fact that that's going to be there. That is part of the music industry setup now. You cannot avoid that. But I stream and I buy alongside that.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like that back in the day when someone would give you like a mixtape or something, and you'd listen to it, or give you a couple of selections of tracks on a cassette, going back in the day when we had cassettes.
Oh, way back.
Listening to that, like, yeah, way back, exactly. But from hearing that, I'll go and buy the album. Yes. And are you streaming for the same purposes? Because I'm not blinkered to the fact that you can't avoid it being there. But I think the whole mechanism is completely wrong in the fact that it doesn't put the artist first.
No.
And I mean, that's a huge issue, and it's being discussed in Parliament at the moment. Well, ongoing, hasn't it? So hopefully something will come of that. I don't think people realise though how little you get from a play, or 10,000 plays, or 20,000 plays, or whatever. It's minimal.
Yeah.
So the whole song Pay to Play was really about summarising everything you have to go through as a musician. Not only back when we were when you were gigging on the scene, nothing's really progressed further than actually streaming being at the forefront. And musicians getting ripped off.
Yeah.
It's not really, because we're the ones that take the risk. Because you obviously mentioned about your Zero Cipher records above your head.
Yeah.
And I mentioned about the Brighter City LPs that are in Justin's house. We took that risk, and that's a financial risk that we've taken. No one high up in the industry is taking those financial risks. No one. No one's going to, back in the day was, you hear about artist development deals.
Yeah.
Where there'd be a pot of money. You can go into a studio, record it as an artist development deal. They'll try and develop your sound, put a record out for you possibly. And you might get some sort of traction from that way. But there's no real lump investment going into bands. No. That's why we set up the label as well. It's like we don't promise bands that we sign on our label, advances or anything, but we promise them they'll get 100% back of anything they make on the streaming platforms. Because what's the point of us taking it? We want to kind of build a family of like musicians and create a scene that seemed to have died away a little bit, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, that was the thing that kind of like back in my time, in that there was a collective scene of bands that like this area we're in, the sort of Surrey, Hampshire area, was quite a fertile ground for a lot of bands. I mean, we had, obviously the obvious ones, 100 Reasons, Reuben, Vex Red, all those sort of bands were coming out of the area. Like, they're the ones that kind of hit that next level. A lot of them hit that next level and went. Just like the bands around us as well, like when we put shows on together, like I used to put shows on, like before I was in Zero Cipher, I was just like, I was a fanzine writer and end up being a show promoter. Always paid the bands no matter what the turnout was. I'd have like either local bands in, or like a touring act with local support, you know, that usual sort of thing.
Yeah.
And working with, like, you know, I got help from Barney at the Westie, or he's no longer at the Westie, but Barney. He was a massive help to me when I started out as well. He was a fellow promoter, but he was like, you know, we kind of, I don't know, I guess we bonded because we kind of share the same name. But he was really helpful, whereas like a lot of other promoters are like, are you stepping on my feet, you know, and whatever. But I wasn't doing what Barney was doing. I was putting on metal shows. He put on a lot of metal shows, but he also put on a lot of indie and punk shows as well, and stuff like that. So and there was a collective scene of trying to sort of build this area up. And then I don't know what happened, because I was in the scene, I was like part of it at that point, like in the band, and you kind of don't see what happened, but it kind of fell away. Like a lot of the bands obviously, you know, went their own separate ways. And then there seemed to be a lot of like, I don't know, from my perspective, a lot of like, it felt, I don't know if it's just paranoia or whatever, but it felt there was a lot of negativity.
Yeah,
like,
no, you're right.
Bands that felt like they deserved a piece of that pie, if that makes sense. Which is very detrimental to any scene, because it's like you become selfish at that point. You don't become for, you know, for the collective love of art, you become for yourself, which I can understand some people, if money is their object, then fine. But the only time I really felt like that sort of scene sort of like that feeling was when I was in America. I was in Tampa in Florida, and there was a collective of well, there was a scene there, and bands were like national acts coming through. They'd stack the bill with local bands, but they'd all be helping each other sell tickets. It wasn't like, you know, opening bands you have to sell 25 tickets. It was like we gave all these tickets to the 3 support bands we booked. Collectively, they went out and sold them. So there were shows together doing it. There were, you know, online doing it. And I was just like, that's how it should be when it comes to a thing. And obviously I know things change. You can't always have it the same, but it was just sort of like that it gave me that kind of like feeling again of like, oh wow, because I got involved in that. So I was like obviously doing this and stuff like that, and getting to know these bands and things, and it was just really good. It was just like a genuine collective of you know, wanting to help each other. And some bands got deals out of it, some didn't, but they continued to do the same thing, you know, because they knew eventually either their time will come, or, you know, they had that realization that maybe it wasn't meant to be, and try something else.
Enjoy it, and just, you know, I think the moment you start putting aside the notion of success or being a you know, being a rock star or whatever, that's the moment you can start enjoying it more. I was chatting to a friend of mine. He's actually completely different genre of music. He's a rapper. He recently got in the top 20 of the official UK charts just off his own back. And I was like, you know, so what an amazing achievement for him, you know, top 20 official album charts. I said to him, like, you know, your mindset is brilliant. He's like, yeah. He said, well, I just realized that when I didn't have anywhere to fit in the industry, I could just concentrate on myself. I think that's just brilliant. Just like, just do your thing. And I think that the whole, you know, when you're talking about creating scenes, that feeling that you're talking about that you had when you went to the States it's the same thing we have when we do the nights at the Fighting Cocks for the label. Yeah. Like you step in that room and you're just like, I always say, Justin, it feels like the old days. It's just everyone's there to have a good time. Every band gets paid, and the atmosphere is amazing, and it just feels like those old days where I hate harking back to like talking about nostalgia, but sometimes nostalgia's that whole reason is just because it was a really good moment in time. And if anyone coming through who's younger and can experience those same feelings, then brilliant. I mean, you never forget those days, and you know, hopefully we can continue them as well.
Definitely. I mean with you guys doing it, obviously we just talked about Pay to Play, but you've got a couple of other singles coming out as well, because by the time this comes out, I think your second one is just about to come out. From what I remember of your thing, I think 7th, I read it down here.
7th of April, I think.
7th of April, that's it. And that's Settled Status. Is the name of the single. Do you want to give us a little taster of that? I mean, I've heard it. I like it. Sure. I get some of the message in it. What was your sort of feelings behind that one?
So Justin, so my dad, Justin's my brother, so our dad came over from Sicily when he was 16.
Yeah.
He's now in his like mid to late 70s. Anyway, when the whole Brexit thing kicked off, you obviously had it was obviously a mess to start with, but you started having these whisperings, and you could hear that people were getting letters about applying for right to remain.
Yeah.
And it was like, we thought, oh, Dad's been here for longer than he's lived in Sicily. He's been here, that amount of time, 60 plus years, that wouldn't come. He's contributed a lot. He obviously working here, raising a family here. And lo and behold, he receives a letter about him having to apply for his right to remain. And it just blows your mind to think that, and I'm only going from personal experience because that's my dad, but people I work with, I work in education as well, I'm lucky enough to have a full-time job. And people I work with are getting these letters. People like, my age and not that much older are getting these letters. And actually, some of them can't stay and teach. They have to go back to their countries. And it's just like, it just blows my mind. And it blows my mind to think that when my dad got it, I'm like, well, he's like 70. He's like, come on, what's he going to do? Yeah. Like, how's he going to go back? How's he going to go to Sicily? And I couldn't work it out. So I just, like with anything like that, I just write it down and write a song about it.
Yeah.
And hopefully it kind of strikes a chord with people. It's by no means, I'm not going to sit there and preach to people about decisions that they've made. I'm just going from personal experience.
Yeah.
And if my dad didn't get, that settled status and the right to remain, I would have been fucking pissed off. If I could swear, sorry. But yeah, I would have, it's just a small snippet of what's happening all around society in the UK today. These families are getting these letters, and these families are finding out that their mothers, sisters, brothers, whatever, can't stay here anymore.
Yeah, it's absolute madness. Just to sort of like go, when I listen to your song, it's all there. And this is what I like about you guys. You have this kind of, obviously it's that I'm not a massive fan of punk in general. Like, it's not my genre. My genre was like new metal and stuff back when I was younger. But you guys, I can kind of, I can relate to what you're saying so much at the moment. Like, I think as I've kind of gotten older and formed my own views on the world compared to when I was younger, I was very much like, whatever band was saying, One with Science, Pitch Shift, or whatever their sort of political sort of messages. Oh yeah, fucking system. As I got older, you kind of mellow out a bit, and you kind of you educate yourself a little bit more, and you're a bit more wise to the world and everything. But that's what I really love about your lyrics and your guys' music. It just, I can relate to it so much, and like that song as well. It was just like, I've had friends with the same problem. They've had letters, or it's not a problem. A lot of them have got the, right to remain, and it's just staggering, because, like you say, these people are in areas of work what this country needs and what this country has been built on.
Yeah, exactly.
And like in the education system, in the health system, things like that, these people, like right now, we need these people. And it's just so frustrating. I try and not watch the news. I try not not avoid it, but not absolve myself in it. But it, because I see everything going on around me, and the message you're getting from media is so different from what you're getting from life. And you're just like, where is this, what not what is real, but why is everything rosy on here, but it's not. You can see that it's not.
You're right.
It's just
no, you're right, 100%. And it's not even the fact that a lot of people I do know were lucky enough to be given permission to stay in a place that a place they've lived their whole life near enough, and the place where they've contributed massively.
Yeah.
But then you've got it's not, even though they had that permission has been granted, people are just like, oh yeah, well, they can stay. Yeah, of course, but it's the amount of stress they go through to get to that point. Imagine not knowing if you actually had a place, you know, feeling completely misplaced from where you thought you were, where you belonged. I mean, that is nothing. That feeling must be awful, and it's just like, if people could just see that and see that what's been happening and what's going on, it's wrong. It's totally wrong. There's no two ways about it.
I've been through something similar. Like when I moved to the States, I had to go through getting a visa, and there is, I mean, it took a year to get what we needed, and eventually, yeah, I did get it. So you know, it turned out right. But you're right, the stress, the strain, the questioning, the money that you have to spend to do that. You know, it was me and my two kids. Because my wife was born in the States. She has dual citizenship, so she's got a passport for here and passport for there, and so she didn't need a visa, so which is fine. We didn't apply when our kids were born. We didn't apply for their sort of American citizenship because at the time we didn't think we need it. But then we got an opportunity to move. So I went through that visa process, and there was this element, this like, I think it was about 3 months of hearing nothing. And you're like, can I go? Can I stay? Am I allowed, you know, is my wife going to be stuck over there without us? Is it, you know, and it's just that the stress alone. I mean, I can't, it's probably minuscule compared to what other people have felt if they've been here for many years. And you know, I was a new person going to a new country, so I was going through that system, but that stress alone was just awful. Like it was like, it's just trying to keep my kids like heads up and everything. And they were so young at the time, 5 and 3. So, you know, they probably barely remember any of it, but it, like going to the embassy in London and being questioned about why, and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, you feel like kind of like a criminal, but you're not.
That's exactly it. They mean that when my dad was going through the process, they were just digging everything up. It's just like, you know, looking into every little small detail of what was his life in the UK. And it's just like, yeah. So, I mean, it was just seemed like a topic. I mean, when I wrote it, that was written before the pandemic. It was probably over a year ago. I mean, it was like that was the more focus, was the whole Brexit thing. That was more of the news. You know how the news works. You got the focus on different areas. I wrote that a year ago, but I mean, a lot of the stuff. This is what I was saying to Justin the other day. It's quite crazy, really, because a lot of the stuff we've written, and there's other songs we've written that hold still the same amount of relevance now that they did a year and a half or a year ago, which shows how little progress we've made as a country, I think. I mean, that's just my opinion, but
I mean, even like there's like it's towards the end of the song where it's like you're saying, you're listing out basically, you know, teachers, they're sending them back, and it kind of resonates to now in a totally different way, but that message is like that, you know, you're in the education system, they're sending the teachers, well, the kids back into school, people back to work, and even though this, like, the pandemic isn't over, they're still like, I took my eldest today to college, and she just for the testing, so for the flow, you know, and you know, and then she finds out at some point today the result of said test, and then she goes back into college tomorrow and starts going back there from doing homeschooling. I've got 2 younger kids, 13 and 12, who've got to do the same in a couple of days. And it's just, it just feels like that particular, like when I heard that the first time, I was like, I wonder if that was what he meant by it.
It's open to interpretation.
I can hear the other bits in there as well, but it's just like that bit there was just like, fucking it, they're sending everyone back. But then obviously it's totally about something else, it's sending everyone back to their countries. Which is I mean, it's just, it does work on so many levels on that front. Quite fortunate. I mean, during the lockdown, I've been quite fortunate to speak to a lot of artists as well, and like some of their stuff was written during, recorded during, or after, or before. You know, some people have held on to their music for like 2 years, and now they're just like, I've got to get out because we've got like another album. Like,
yeah.
And it's just like, you know, listening to what people have produced during this time is, you know, like when you say it comes from beforehand, it just, like you say, it still works. But this whole world's been on pause pretty much for
you're right,
the last year. So it's just kind of, you know, trying to make head nor tail of it. But you've got I'll tell you, the next single you got in May as well. I've got the notes on that. You got the This Ship Is Sinking. What's that one? What were your thoughts on that?
I suppose. I mean, that was written. That was one of the first ones we recorded. Just frustration, just general frustration with the whole political system in the UK, I suppose. Listen, I'm not some sort of revolutionary who's going to go out on the streets and but I see what I see, and it's like social commentary, and if things frustrate me, I'll write about it and I'll talk about it. And again, I remember the distinct moment when I was sitting on a train back from work and there was just some fucking idiot just being so racist. It was just, do you know, it makes your blood boil.
Yes.
So anyway, I was with someone and we just said, look, mate, this is totally ridiculous. Like, can you just like take whatever you want to say, keep your mouth shut and fuck off, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then it was I think he was drunk or whatever, and he just went off on one. And you're just like, are you fucking serious? And he was just talking about just random stuff about people, again, going back to their own country and all this kind of fucking nonsense.
Yeah.
And it's just like, the blinkered view is that these people are coming over here in their droves just to fucking, what's the word that people say? Leech off the government or bleed and dry, or taking our jobs. Coming over here and taking our jobs. That's the classic one, isn't it?
That's the classic one.
It's like, all right, are they? All right, okay. But actually, we're this kind of melting pot of cultures. It's beautiful. The country we live in is brilliant because we have so many different cultures and beliefs and backgrounds that we should be embracing that.
Yeah.
And if people want to come over here for a better life and they're leaving something that has been, some things are harrowing. I work with students who have gone through some harrowing stuff to get to this country for a better life, and I just wish people would feel that kind of more love and respect for people who are coming over and trying to make something of themselves.
Yeah, they don't tell people that. You get occasional, like, you'll get a feel good movie or something come out, or a TV show or something, and then people are, oh great, Slumdog Millionaire, I think it was like one of those ones, and it was just like highlighting certain things, and it's just like there's so much more. Like, there are people that have, like, even when I was going over to use my own experience going over to the States, there is that kind of like, you do get, even though I'm English, I'm white, generally you should be all right, but there was that kind of like, constant checking if you got a visa, you got a green card, stuff like that, and making sure that I was doing something or had the correct paperwork for stuff, or was supposed to be there, or I was doing something that others couldn't, that kind of like, and it was just not through the work I was, not through the company that I was working for, because the company I worked for was quite diverse, so it's not they don't discriminate basically against, they'll hire me in as long as I had the obviously green card and stuff, because there are laws, but just sort of like being checked up on, and whenever I sort of like, I don't know, you get that weird feeling like, why are you here? But I was in the kind of like South America, and it's like, but it, like Florida, it's full of British tourists and stuff, so there is that. But I'm not sort of, I made myself all right, so I can't complain too much, of
course,
on that one.
I just think I think people forget, and when they lead off on one, you still hear it. It's people, you still hear people just coming out with some awful shit about.
Oh, totally.
And it's just like, people forget that, and that's why I put that line at the end of the song. We're an island surrounded by the sea, built by hands from a foreign land.
Yeah.
Because people forget the contribution that all of these people from all different walks of life make to make this country what it is.
Yeah.
And it's not there's no kind of purity to it, because they had this like people who go, oh, bloody, I'm purely this, I'm purely, you're not, because if you look back over history, you look back over time and trace your ancestry, I'm sure you'll find lots of different,
Yeah.
nations there. And it's just like, I just think people start to stop being so blinkered, and start appreciating the fact that everyone is contributing in their own way and the way they can. Of course, there's going to be people taking advantage. That isn't just because they're from a different country.
No.
It's just going to be people who are supposedly, do you know what I mean? And it's like, you have to realize that the way that everything can kind of improve is that everyone has that mutual love and respect for each other. And I don't want to sound really hippie about it, but there's nothing wrong with, having love for your fellow human being.
No, totally. Absolutely. But I got a couple more questions for you, man, if that's all right.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Time for that. But what I want to touch on is, obviously you already mentioned it, you've got your own label, the Undead Collective. And you've had that for quite a while, but you're just about to start your own clothing line.
Yeah.
So
I'm donning it right now. Yeah.
Wearing it. That's good. But yeah, no, I just wanted, if you wanted to have a quick chat about that, because it's quite a jump. I mean, I've chatted to a couple of bands that are kind of, some are contemplating it, some are actually doing it, like coming up with fashion lines or whatever and everything like that. So what was the sort of like the impetus behind that?
The label to start with, or
yeah, let's go with the label. Let's go with the label.
The label, yeah.
Yeah.
So we set the label up in 2017 when we released an EP with Bright Light City. We just kind of wanted to get it out. We wanted to have it in the shops. So looking at distribution deals and stuff, I just said to Justin and Ben, who helps run the label as well, I was like, it was just before we started it, I was like, well, how do you fancy just set up a record label? I mean, I've always fancied that Epitaph, Discord, Sub Pop mentality, where it obviously starts off as a DIY, just build a scene with bands, sign the bands you love, and try and give them a platform to get noticed, get seen, or spread their message, or get the music out there. And I've always been, and Justin's the same, I've always been someone who just thought, why not just take a risk, like send out that email, ask that person, all they can say is no. So we got together a little plan. We had the name, obviously, which was Undead Collective, and we got together a little plan and put together like an email template. And I said to Justin, like, who are we going to send these to? Because we want to get a decent distribution deal where it's kind of encompassing sync deals as well, maybe some publishing involved. So really, we want to look at a major distributor, a major player in the industry, that we can keep our own integrity, but they can obviously give us their resources, which is a win-win, really.
Yeah.
So we sent out all these emails, and we went, it was like all the places you could think of. And then there was back in 4 years ago, it was called Sony Red Essential. Remember Red Essential?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was owned by Sony. And there's quite a few bands that we knew, we liked, that were quite well known, but were going through Sony Red Essential as a distributor, but keeping a lot of their work for themselves, in a sense. And Sony were taking like a percentage cut for that distribution, but nowhere near as big as it would be if you sign a major label deal or whatever. Anyway, I emailed them. I thought, I'm going to get it back. We're just like we haven't even got anything out yet, So I emailed the concept and was just honest. I think people are taken a bit aback in the music industry by people who are not only honest, but I like to think we're nice guys too.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you just be yourselves, be nice, be honest, and hopefully, it might resonate, and people go, oh, hang on a minute, maybe we can take a risk. And it ended up coming back that a guy called Alex Berry, who's awesome, he works at Sony Red, and it's now called The Orchard.
Yeah.
So Sony bought The Orchard distribution. Went over there, but Alex emailed back and said, look, guys, I get one chance, I think he said, every year to take on an independent label onto The Orchard's distribution roster. And I'd like to give you that opportunity, which is amazing. So that gave us that kind of first step, going, all right, now we're actually a label. now we got to do something.
Yeah.
So the first thing was our Bright Light City EP, which we invested in the vinyl pressing.
Yeah.
We invested in all the other bits and bobs as well, because there was an option where you could take investment, but we didn't want to.
Yeah.
do it all ourselves. Released that, got it in the shops. It was really good. I think it charted. It was really great. Like kind of G'd us up a bit, got us really into kind of signing more bands that we played with. So like fast forwards, 4 years now, we've got a really nice roster of bands that we've met just playing gigs really, but also bands that we gigged with over the years who are really talented and just amazing people and musicians, but never given that chance. You really hear a good song and you hear a good band, you're like, oh man, I wish they could get that platform.
Yeah.
So we try and give them that platform by getting the distribution through the Orchard via the label, but as well as having sync opportunities as well. So computer games, TV, film, if people don't know what sync is. And then it's we got to the point where every band on the label gets paid their money they make. We don't take any money, because what's the point? Because if you're talking about streaming, 10,000 streams is like 60 quid. So it's like, why we want to sit there and take this money off the bands when actually it could go back into them. They can have that money and reinvest it if they want to in stuff that they might want to buy a short run of lathe cut vinyls, for example, which are quite well priced at the moment. But then we wanted to offer a little bit more than we could, but we haven't got the finances. So again, I said to Justin and Ben, I was like, look, why don't we, like, there's a site I know that does all it does the fulfillment for you. You make a small percentage from the sales of this is about the clothing line, by the way. You make a small percentage of the sales from your t-shirts. We've got tons of designs done by a guy called Tom Ings, who's awesome, but we've never used them. I was like, why don't we just talk to Tom Ings, see if we can buy the designs so we have the rights to them, which he's fine with anyway, and then just set up a clothing line of like some cool t-shirts and prints that people can buy if they want, and then any money we make from that we'll build up into a pot, and then we'll say the next band we're releasing is Springfall C. We're a great band. We might want to get some 7-inches done.
Yeah.
Now we can afford 7-inch vinyls because we've made some money from do you see what I mean? So it's how we can self-finance. So that's the clothing line thing, and it's done really well. A lot of people have bought stuff, and it's been nice to have it there as that extra bit of income to put back into the label rather than our own money. Because otherwise you get stuck in that trap where the Bright Light City LP was a perfect example. When I was like all guns, got guns blazing with it. I'll get a credit card, I'll get the vinyls done, we'll get the t-shirts done, we'll get the CDs done. Man, that credit card has been paid off yet. Nowhere near being paid off yet. But
I'm there.
it's all experience, It
is, yeah, totally. It resonates so much, like from back when I was I'm still paying off a portion of what was borrowed back then, because we went the same route. Our first one, we had a distro deal, but it was through a cool indie label at the time, Copro or Casket.
I remember that.
And then the second one, we got signed to a label called Anti-Culture.
Okay, yeah.
But there was that again. It was just like, it was mainly distribution. There was no money in it or anything. They paid for manufacturing, but that was it. And then the third one, we made our own label and did it ourselves. And it felt a lot more rewarding, to be honest. We got like a little like distro deal through I think it was Plastic Head, actually. It wasn't great, but it got us into where we needed to be. And it's like just hearing, like, I don't think we had the thing to do a fashion line or anything. So we were kind of, none of us were into that sort of stuff, but it was just it's nice to hear that people are still doing it this way and kind of adapting to the industry as it changes, whether it's changing, like with the streaming stuff, it's kind of like technology went ahead of a lot of what was sort of like considered industry standard, and that's why there's not that much money in it, because these companies have kind of overtook it took a while for the industry to catch up to them. So by that point it became major platforms for music distribution, so the money isn't great because they couldn't negotiate that
No, exactly.
high up. So I'm hoping it will change. I mean, you know, I work for a company that own one of the streaming services. You know, they pay a little bit more than the others, but still not enough. But it's, you know, I do hope that they change and it becomes more profitable for bands to have their music streamed, because it's still playing it out. You know, it's like, you know, you get PRS payments if you're lucky to get played on the radio or in a club or whatever.
Exactly.
You know, you get those PRS payments, whereas with streaming it's kind of, it's nowhere near. It's like PRS are nowhere near it.
That's the thing, isn't it? And do you know what, I saw a shift recently, just from like an industry point of view, when I was talking about my friend who's a rapper who just got in the charts. I mean, and a lot of that scene itself, like the grime and rap scene, I followed it for quite a long time now, just because I have friends in that genre. Yeah. And they're really, really clever. A lot of the guys in that scene are really, really clever at pushing the iTunes link rather than the Spotify and the Apple link, because obviously you know that iTunes link is £4 or £5.99 for the album. That's instant. Whereas the streaming really doesn't compute really too much at all. But also that iTunes link is this equivalent generation of 600 streams or whatever it is, if you sell that $4.99 product. So you'll see a resurgence now especially in the official charts, which you would never see before, of a lot of grime artists and rappers coming up who are independent, but pushing and being very clever about what they push to get the music out there. I don't have anything against, just like back to what I said earlier, I don't have anything against streaming, as I said to you. The concept is great.
Yes.
But what I worry about is I see bands paying to get put onto playlists. That worries me.
Yes.
What? I mean, they're paying more than they'll earn back from being on that playlist. Doesn't make much sense to me, and I don't know. I think that needs to be called out a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
That's something that I've noticed as well. Like, I've got my own playlist that I publish, and it is music that no one pays to get on it. You know, and it is listened to. It's not like it's it's just like, you know, a private playlist or whatever. It's a public one. But no, I put bands on that, like, and I've noticed, I've seen, like, it's like the because I've got friends in the sort of like PR game that are very like good for, you know, they love pushing new bands, and they're saying like reaction videos. They're getting like approached from people to do reaction videos. React to your music for like $2,000. I'm like, why? why pay for that?
Crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. It's
and like, because like, if you're paying for that reaction, then it's got to be a fake reaction. Yeah, it might get a few hits off this person, but you know, I get people want to make money, but there's just these areas, like a playlist is like, that's like the mixtape used to make people, the mix CD. You know, that's how I see it, and that's how I've like gone to accept it over the years, because I'm like, the MP3 was like, because you're not owning anything, there's nothing there, it's digital file. It's like, you know, I love physical product, but then, you know, over the justifying it in my head and all that, because I kind of, when I was about, it was like at the advent of people pirating like from torrent sites rather than you know, copying your CD to a tape or whatever, or copying it to on the CD, and it's sort of like having that now. I kind of like, I remember the years of like having CDs in my pocket and a CD player or a tape, you know, Walkman, and making, like, spending all day making a tape. And now I've got, you know, on my phone, I've got all the songs that I want. I've got a playlist, you know, and I can share this playlist with other people. You know, and that's what I do. Actually, you guys are on it this week.
Thank you.
But yeah, no, it's just something like, you know, like seeing that side of things where people are trying to pay, or, you know, trying to get money to be on these playlists because they've suddenly become this like famous or, you know, popular on that front. And it's just, you know, now that you can look at these playlists, you don't discover anything.
It's so disingenuous though. It's just like, you look at it and you think, and that's why I mean, really, I can't stand the whole Spotify Wrapped nonsense as well. That really does my nut in. I just because I don't really, it's like Justin's like sums it up really well. I think he says like, it's like bringing like a certificate home from school and showing your mum and saying, look, this is how well I've done, kind of thing. Or it's like, do you know what I mean? Or it's like, you know, it's showing everyone your payslip. It's
Yeah.
like but it's just pretty minimal. Your payslip is like,
yeah, compared to like you see like a big band there, you're like, oh
yeah, exactly, exactly. So it's nice to be proud of achievements, but when it comes to stuff like the amount of streams you've got, I really don't care. I like it doesn't. So what? Do you know what I mean?
It's as long as people hear your music. That's all.
Exactly.
You know,
exactly.
and they'll find you if they want something. They'll find you. And finally, you've got a podcast as well.
Yeah.
I mean, you're on my mind now, but you've got a podcast going as well. It's called On Repeat. I haven't listened to it yet, but do you want to give us a sort of bit on that as well? Just sort of like, you know, bit of plug-in. I don't mind a bit of plug-in on it. So,
thank you.
So what made you set up a podcast?
It was initially an idea just in the pub. We always like before gigs or whatever, like, you know, that period after sound check is just like fucking tedious.
Yes.
So we just sit there and we just talk music, and it wouldn't just be stuff we're listening to today. It'd be like, I remember that track you used to listen to when you're younger. Like, do you remember when you were in primary school and like whatever it's the 90s, and there was that song that was really popular at the school disco, and you think about all these senses and smells and stuff, you know. We thought, let's do a podcast. So we just did one episode to start with, and it was basically about I think it's the first single we'd ever bought when we were younger.
Oh, nice.
So it was like, I mean, it wasn't very. I think Justin was the only person throughout the whole of the On Repeat podcast who has the best taste in music up until, you know, we start growing up a bit as well. He's a little bit older than us. So like some of ours was like, you know, I don't know, Michael Jackson single, or I think it was like an E17. I don't know, something funny, just something stupid. And we talk about it and the feelings it would evoke when you're younger, and you place it together with stuff at the time, you know, sweets you're eating, crisps, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And encompassing stuff. And the whole point is, you know, you listen to that on repeat. And then we got into the more swing of things with it, where we started talking about favorite albums that you bought, favorite Nirvana album specifically, favorite Pearl Jam. We did a whole grunge episode, we've done a punk episode. We're about to release a post-hardcore episode, so we're talking about US post-hardcore and UK post-hardcore. Nice. And everything encompassing that. So yeah, just like, you know, a bit of a chat between friends, having a few beers, always overruns, never very professional.
No, that's the way of the podcast, man.
It's just good fun.
The way it goes. But I mean, this leads me perfectly onto my sort of last questions, because it's music related and it's more about that. But what I want to know from you is your 3 most pivotal albums. So the album, like for instance, that made you want to be in a band or made you want to sing, you know, or, you know, just an album you heard and it shifted you at that time, or it just totally, like, you had that mind-blowing moment.
I'll always go back to Deftones' White Pony.
Nice.
I was listening to other bands around that time anyway. Was that 2000 maybe?
It was 2000,
yeah. But that album, I mean, it's between that and Glassjaw, but I'll go Deftones just because they managed to keep that consistency, and I think they broke away from from the new metal label really quite in a very mature way.
Yes.
I don't know why. I actually don't know why they were lumped into that label, because they really developed as a band. But White Pony, man, that album
is amazing.
I mean, I saw them on the White Pony tour. It was Deftones, Linkin Park, and I think Taproot. Yeah. And then, you know, as soon as Chino came out, I was like, geez. I mean, I was in the band already then, but it shifted what I wanted to do. I was playing bass.
Was that Docklands, that gig?
Yes, it would have been. Yeah. It would have been.
I was there too.
Yeah. It was Taproot, Linkin Park, and Deftones, from what I remember. It blew my mind. So it made me want to switch just to being a singer. I don't play any instruments live. I just sing. Yeah. And that album. What can you say?
No, it's amazing. I'd like it baffled me last year because it turned 20 and they released basically the 20th anniversary version. And I was just like, oh my God, 20 years from that album. I mean, I'm obviously a bit older than you, but I remember like seeing Deftones in like 96 at the Astoria, and just like That's my brag.
It's good. It's a good brag.
It's a good brag. I saw him a couple of times there. One with Far, which was
Oh
great,
wow!
and then the other one with Will Haven.
Oh man, yeah, brilliant.
But yeah, no, Deftones are a massive band for me. And you're right, they moved away. I think initially because they were lumped in with that, because they were part of that movement that came over with the likes of Core and all that kind of stuff that really kind of shifted that or started that new metal side of things. And their look as well, they had that skater kid look that
exactly.
the rest of them kind of had. And they had a similar setup to a lot of bands, but yeah, they just evolved and became their own thing. Like shifting that new metal kind of like tag is really difficult. You either embrace it or you fight against it, and they didn't really do anything. They just kind of like, well, this is the music we want to do, and they just took that and made it kind of gave like that new metal a prog element, if you will.
Yeah, well, that's, you're right. I think maybe as well. I was chatting to Justin about this the other day. I think Terry Date played a big part in shaping the way they are.
Yeah.
It's very unique, their sound. It is really, I mean, his singing style is very unique. It borderlines will make you feel a bit uncomfortable when he's reaching for certain notes, but then he gets there and it's just like, I just think, you know, everything about that album, White Pony, is just,
yeah.
I mean, Maynard's on it as well, isn't he? So it's
he
just
is,
like,
yeah, the passenger.
Yeah. Nah, that's great.
Nice. How about some others?
Okay, so one I used to steal from Justin all the time was Pearl Jam 10.
Nice.
He used to have the cassette tape and he used to nick it from him. Again, another band I love. I really love Pearl Jam. Just a band I saw again around the same time I saw Deftones in 2000. I think it was Wembley they played. Justin bought me tickets for 2 nights then. And I just think they're a great band.
Yeah.
I really like the songwriting. I mean, their Marmite really with people, but it's just that kind of thing. A connection I had. I was hearing it being played in Justin's room, and hearing his voice and his very unique voice again. I was like, what is that? It's kind of, and then the other album, it's a really tricky one because there are a lot of albums that I hark back to and think that would have been a massive, like, you know, in Utero Nirvana would have been something that I would have nicked from Justin as well, but that wasn't of my time. That was something that's way before me. But something of my time that I used to love was Silverchair Neon Ballroom.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, that was a cool album. That was the one I saw and I heard like the you could have like a heavier guitar sound occasionally with orchestral stuff. I thought it was quite interesting.
Yeah. No, that's a good choice. I mean, White Pony, amazing. Pearl Jam 10, again, it's an amazing album. And Silverchair Neon Ballroom, that I haven't heard that in a long time. I
listened to it recently, actually. This is the first time I listened to it in about 10 years.
Yeah.
And as soon as I put it on and that Emotion Sickness song plays, like,
yeah,
it's just great. It's just amazing. It's just great songwriting. Anyway, give it a spin.
I have to give it a spin. I like this is why I ask this question, like when I have people on, because there's always albums that I either haven't heard before or haven't heard in so long. And it's just ones I've forgotten about, you know, that I may stumble on again if I go through my CDs or whatever, or
exactly.
But no, I'm gonna have to go dig that one out to find out, put that on. So finally, what hobbies do you have away from music? So when you're not doing the label, you're not doing StayAsleep or anything like that, what other things do you get up
to? When the weather's good, I do a lot of skating. Not skateboarding. I do like aggressive skating, inline skating, you know, on like ramps. I've been doing that since I was like a teenager, and I recently, in the past 5 years, got back into it. It's good to keep fit, and I quite it's the only way I can keep fit is just get my skates on and go for a skate about. So I do that. Nothing much else. I've got a young family, so spend time with my kids. Just enjoying life, really. I think you get to a point where you just want to have fun and enjoy life, and when you have kids, like, you know, it just changes your perspective slightly.
It does very much so.
No,
I used to skate a lot, not inlines but the 4x4s. I used to play a sport called roller hockey when I was younger. And I used to go to, like, when we have tournaments and stuff, some of them were like South Sea Skate Park or whatever,
Yeah.
Knowing there, but
Brilliant.
then like between games, I go out on the ramps to the lament of my manager at the time of like, don't fucking injure yourself.
Yeah.
There's me dropping off these big half pipes and everything.
Oh, it's good fun though, isn't it?
Oh, totally. I got back into skating like again, back to the States. But they've got like skating rinks there still.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
And yeah, I didn't have my skates or anything when my kids had a school night there, the one nearest to us. And yeah, my mum ended up packaging up my old skates and sending them over to me because I was using like the kids' house skates. And yeah, no, I've got like when we come back here, there's like a local place that did have up until the pandemic that had like a regular day of coming in and skating and stuff. And yeah, it's just good fun to see. You know, it's just I love doing that. That's great. It's yeah, and it does keep you fit. Surprisingly, you know, you might be like rolling around, but
crazy.
A lot of first time I got back on skates, I forgot how much of my body I actually use. So balance was one thing, you know, trying to remain up on your feet, saying, "Yeah, I'm a really good skater." When I was young, I've got like certificates, like skating certificates, you know, like level 5 skate, whatever it was, and you know, and I was like a, you know, an amateur hockey player, whatever it was, and you know, played for, you know, county and country and whatever. And I get on the skates and I'm like fucking like trying to stay on my feet.
It's always the way, always the way. You forget. I mean, especially on ramps. Like I only really started properly getting back into it was at the start of the first lockdown.
Yeah,
I had my old pair. There's a skate park nearby. I thought I'll just give it a go because I'm not getting out and about. I need to do some exercise. I hate like running and whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll go on my skates, and it's so tiring.
Yeah.
I don't know how I did it. And I'm scared of everything. Like when I was 15, 16, don't care. Drop into vert, you know, try all these. But now, you know, I'm older. I'm just like, I can't. I'm scared. It takes me about 20 minutes to commit to something.
Yes. Yeah. You're
standing there, psyching myself,
just looking down.
Love it.
Watching you, like, what's he gonna do? What's he gonna do?
So good.
That's crazy. Well, Jamie, thank you very much, man. I appreciate your time. And yeah, good luck with everything on that front. I'll be listening. I'll be watching. I'll be playing your stuff on TotalRock as well.
Brilliant. Thank you.
So we'll get some airplay out of that for you. And yeah, no, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate your time and everything.
Thanks for having me. I really, seriously, keep supporting new music like you do, because we need more like you. We really do. Definitely.
I will continue to do what I do on that front. I've actually been trying to get you guys in for a while as well, like back when Bright Light, because I saw you at the Westie. It's the first time I saw you guys, and it was just like me and my wife were just like really fucking good. Really funny.
Nice to hear.
Yeah, she's got an Undead Collective t-shirt out of it and everything, so that's all good.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, the original stuff as well. Yeah, you keep that.
Yeah, it's the one with the like zombie on the front.
Oh yeah, that's the very first pressings. Wow.
Oh, nice.
I don't have one of those.
Oh, yeah, no, she still wears it. She loves it. She's loving Stay Asleep as well. I played it to her. And she's,
brilliant. It's good to hear.
You know, realizing who it was, and she's like, nice. And I said, I've got you coming on. She's like, oh, cool. Say it. Nice. I like them. So she likes them. Let's say she likes them.
That's all we need. That's all we need.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I look forward to seeing you guys live again. Once everything's back open and gigs are back on.
Yeah.
See you guys. Hopefully, I mean, you're in the same area as us, so you'll be playing locally.
Exactly. Yeah.
On that front. But yeah, like I say, good luck with everything. And yeah, thank you again.
Cheers, mate. Thanks very much.
Cool. Thank you, mate. Have a good one.
You too. See you later.
Bye-bye.